Hi, Redeemer. Donovan here. For this week's FAQ, I'm going to tackle the question, do Christians have to vote? My truck's making some kind of weird noise coming out of this thing here. Hopefully it's not bothersome. But now the reason I asked this is, or I posed this question is because, so I posted on Facebook this week, I'm not going to vote this year. Now I'm just joking because most of you know that I'm not an American citizen and therefore can't vote. So playing toward those that know me and just kind of having a laugh. But one of the things that came out of that post was I had a couple responses, some publicly and some privately, that basically challenged me that I was being irresponsible as a leader because I may be influencing people not to vote. And so there's a presumption under there that that would not be a viable option for a Christian leader, which would be to encourage people not to vote. And so let me just tackle that. At the end of the day, I think voting is an option in this country. And obviously, and I think Christians can be involved and in politics to whatever extent they feel like they have the freedom to be in good conscience. But I'm going to just stop short of saying Christians have to vote. I can't do that. Listen, you hired me as a pastor, as a preacher, to preach what's biblically true. And there's some things that we can step beyond that and say, hey, here's what I would counsel, or here's where I think might be wise. But I'm not prepared to stand. Here's kind of one of the ways I check myself. Like, will I stand at the pulpit and say, Jesus says you have to vote, and if you don't, that's a sin. And I can't go there. And so quickly I get to, no, you don't have to vote. You certainly may. And we can talk about different strategies and different ways to approach that. And there's been a lot of articles posted this week by John Piper and responses and all about that, about how to sort through this. And but I'm just certainly not going to say that Christians have to vote. In fact, I would say it very well may be the case that some of you should not vote as a way to release your idolatry, right? To abstain, to fast from voting, as a way to confess your release and give control over to God. In one sense, that's really what the Sabbath is all about in the Old Testament. It is Israel functioning as a witness to the world. When the world says, where are you going to get your food? Where is your security and sustenance coming from? And they say it's coming from God. And so one day a week, remember back then, everybody worked all day, every day, because that's how you ate. And God said, as a witness to my care for you, you're going to rest from your works. And so there was this idea of giving over control and as a witness to the world, to God. Now, I'm not saying that that's what we all need to do then when it comes to voting. You certainly may vote and vote with your conscience. But to insinuate that it is poor Christian leadership to suggest that Christians may not vote, I'm not gonna go there. So you may vote, you may not vote. You may write in a candidate. Here's the deal. I'm not going to promote a candidate or whatever. Like, my wife asked me the other day, if you were a citizen, would you vote? And I literally feel like at this point, I wouldn't. And maybe if that changed and the responsibility shifted and I had to like actually look a little deeper, and maybe I'd vote, and maybe I'd write in Glenn Salzman or something like that. But there it is. I can't go there. I'm not going to tell you have to vote. So that's probably a little, again, one of the comments I got was that on the post was that I was being provocative for the sake of being provocative, which I guess I was toying around with, the idea that I'm not a citizen and therefore can't vote anyway. But the presumption under there is that it's provocative to suggest that a Christian might not vote. And I think that's just potentially a sign of us having gotten too deep into politics and intertwining the church and the state. And I just want to challenge you guys some of that. So if you have some questions or want to sit down over coffee or come on the podcast and discuss these things, I'd love to. So anyways, go in peace, vote your conscience, or don't vote your conscience. All right? God's grace.